Welcome back. In this tutorial we are going to explore filters. Filters are one of the main features of Photoshop. I can't teach you what every filter does. There's just way too many. There's dozens upon dozens of filters. However, what I can teach you is how to use them properly, right? In general, like what does a filter do and where you can find them and how you can adjust settings. There is no way to teach you what every filter does, and to be honest, I don't know what half of them do. I've never used them. But my goal here is to teach you kind of how they work, how to do adjustments with them, and then your job is to explore with them, and then when you come across a tutorial, you know where they're at and you'll know how to set them up properly. Also, as always, the main topic we've been discussing about Photoshop: non-destructive editing. That's the most important thing, non-destructive editing. And in recent versions of, or modern versions of Photoshop, you're able to apply smart filters, right? To convert a layer into a smart object and to apply filters non-destructively, which is what we always want to do. Unless there is no other option, we want to not damage, destroy, delete, or manipulate pixels permanently. We want to do non-destructive editing. Key concept in Photoshop, okay? So let's get started. Last tutorial we cut out our model from the background, and we have these two layers. We have our background original layer and then this layer mask layer here on the right. We're going to go ahead and rename the layer mask layer from background to Black Widow. We want to make sure we stay organized and name our layers properly. Then we want to convert this layer into a smart object. So I'm going to right click, convert to smart object, and you'll notice that now it has that little symbol in the bottom right to indicate that it's a smart object thumbnail. And you're thinking, well, we went through all that work to create the layer mask, where did it go? If you double click on the thumbnail after you make something a smart object, it will take you back to the original file, and you can do any edits in there that you want. And then you simply come up here to the top. There's two tabs, and this one that says .psb is going to be the thumbnail of the vector of the smart object. So I'm just going to close it and come back to my original document. I just wanted to show you it's there and you can go in and make changes. Alright, so we're going to explore filters while trying to create a comic book effect. And there's tons of tutorials online about how to do this. I just picked some of the best ones. I looked through them and picked some of the best techniques, and we're going to use that to show you how filters work. So up at the top there's a filter menu. Alright, I'm going to click on filter. There's filter gallery and some other filters here, and then tons and tons and tons of them down here. I will tell you that the ones that I use the most are blur. People who do a lot with photography also use sharpen. And then I use quite a bit the one that we're going to do first, which is poster edges, and that's under filter gallery. These here are separate than the ones that are here. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of filters. Alright, so we're going to go on to filter gallery, and we don't want stylize, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to go up to artistic and click on poster edges. I want to see my whole image here in screen, so I can hit Command 0 to zoom out. Once you pick a filter, and you can experiment and click through these other ones, not for this project, like I want you to follow along with me, but in the future just come in and see what they do, right? But I'm going to click on poster edges, and you can see that there are some settings here to the right. There is no secret formula to this. There is no recipe. Make it this number, it will do this. This is kind of like cooking. It's seasoned to taste. Every image is different. How it was lit when somebody took the photo, the number of pixels or the resolution of the photo, the colors in the photo. There's all these factors that affect the settings on the filters. For this particular photo, I've already gone through this in practice. I know what we want. So I'm going to change our edge thickness to 4. Keep our edge intensity at 1, and if you look here at the image, you see this kind of banding as this shows the value, and it's these light and dark areas, right? And it's kind of harsh lines. I don't want that for this effect. I want that to be smooth. So I need to increase the posterization. So the more you move posterization to the right, the smoother that gets. So I'm going to try 4 and hit tab. Now if we look back over here to the left, you'll notice that it has this kind of illustrated look, but that gradation values, those steps, are gone. So I'm going to click OK. Now here's the cool thing. Right below our layer is now this kind of sub layer or adjustment layer, but it's called a smart filters layer, and it has a mask, so we can paint white or black to mask or unmask parts of the effect, and then we can turn the filter on or off. We can also double click on it and come back in and make any changes. Again, it's non-destructive. Alright, so that's a really cool feature. Didn't always used to be that way, but that ability to go in and do non-destructive editing is awesome. Now we need to add another filter on top. So we did poster edges. We're going to come back up to filter, and we're going to go to filter gallery again. In this one we are going to pick film grain. Alright, so we're going to come up here and we have film grain, and you notice looking at our image, and we can turn, we got the film grain on, and there's a bunch of settings again over here to the right. I'm going to make the highlights really pop. So you see this highlight area 0? I'm going to try, let's see what 10 does. I'm going to do 10 like that. Maybe that's too much. Let's see. Try 6. Intensity. I'm going to keep the intensity maybe not that high. I'll bring that down to 6 too. And what you can kind of see is going on, hopefully, is that it's pulling out a little bit of highlights. You really see it in the hair where it was all black. It's kind of pulling out these little colored highlights. I'm just doing that to add a little depth to our comic book look, like if we had sketched it in. So again, these aren't magic numbers 466. They're just ones that I thought worked with what we're doing. Every image is different. You're just going to have to play with them when you're doing your own stuff to see the look that you want. All right, I'm going to click OK. You can see now they're stacked on top of each other. I can turn them on and off to get that effect that I want. Next is probably the thing that really gives kind of a comic book look. So most comic books are illustrated, right? We're mimicking that style with these two effects, but old school comic books, which is what we're trying to reproduce in this project, had little dots due to the way it was printed on the paper and the ink. We can simulate that in Photoshop with halftones. Alright, so with that layer still active, we're going to go up to filter, and we're not going to filter gallery. We're going to come down to pixelate, and we're going to choose color halftone. Color halftone. It's going to pop up this window, and you notice it's different than the filter gallery window. It's its own window, and it has no preview, which is kind of a bummer. You guys will likely have this as 8. I think 8's the default, but 4 is what we want. It's the maximum radius of these little halftones. I'll show you what they are once I click apply, but change that to 4. Don't change anything else. Click OK. And this one, you can't really season to taste so much in the initial window because you can't see what it does till afterwards. But I'm going to zoom in, and you can see it added these little color dots and other little things on there. Those are the color halftones. I'm going to hit Command 0 to zoom back out to full screen, but we don't want it all kind of that grainy looking. So way back earlier in the Photoshop stuff, we learned about blending modes. Alright, blending modes. But I don't want to blend this whole layer. I want to only blend over here on the right the color halftone. So another nice advantage or feature of Smart Objects is right here. This little button to the right. Double click to edit the filter blending options. Color halftone's the one we just did. So I'm going to double click on it. It's going to pop up this blending options for color halftone, and we have our blending modes. And remember, there was those 3 you must know: screen, multiply, or overlay. I'm actually in this particular one going to do soft light. So I'm going to click on that. Let me just click and drag in here and kind of show you what it does. So there's our halftones with soft light. If If I go back to normal, you can see, right, really kind of pixelated looking, but I switch from normal to either overlay or soft light, and you will see it makes it way more subtle. Still has that old school comic book effect that we want, but way more subtle. So I'm going to click OK. Now we want to take this layer and we're going to try something here. Let's experiment. We're going to duplicate this layer. Another word for duplicate is to jump. We're going to jump a copy of this layer up. So Command J to jump. Command J to jump. Now you will see over here on the right there are two Black Widow layers. I want to remove the filters from the top layer, the one we just made a copy of. So to the right of Smart Filters, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Clear Smart Filters. Now you notice that this doesn't have any filters effects, right? Because it's covering up the one below. But I want to add some depth. So I'm going to blend the one with no effects with the one that does have effects. So instead of normal, let's try multiply. And then I'm going to zoom in and see if it actually still keeps the color halftones. There we go. And it just kind of darkened us up. If I turn that off, actually I don't like that so much. Let me try overlay. See if that has, there we go, that created a little more contrast. Blackened this up, kept some of our highlights in there. This is just optional. I thought it'd be kind of a cool effect to blend the two, and it seems to be working. Lastly, we need to add some strokes to our character. So comic books were originally hand-drawn, and most of them are still hand-drawn and then brought into the computer, although some people do the Wacom tablet the whole time. But one of the key things is inking. So when you're trying to get a comic book look, it's inking the edges, inking the lettering. That is to have these nice lines that outline your character. So back on our original Black Widow layer down here, I'm going to double click in the open area on the right to bring up my layer effects, and I'm going to come to stroke. Alright, and you can see it's adding a black stroke. Here's a cool thing. Any window that has a preview option, simply hit P on the keyboard and you can turn the preview on and off, which is pretty useful. Okay, so what size do we want here? We don't want to go too big, right? That's kind of crazy. Let me see. I'm thinking 8 might not be bad. Let's see if we go a little bit smaller. Maybe 6. I'm going to go with 6 just so we have this nice kind of outline here around our model. We want to make sure it positions inside and we don't need to change anything else. We actually want it black to look like ink. And I'm going to click OK. And again, this is non-destructive, right? I can turn it on and off like that. But that gives it kind of a inked look or an inked effect, which finalizes our comic book look. Let me just zoom in just so you can see some of the details, right? Giving us kind of a illustrated comic look with a few filters. Last little reminder, work non-destructively, make sure to do smart objects, and there are dozens and dozens of effects. Use them the same way I did here, just kind of experiment with them when you have a chance, see what they do, and they'll allow you to do some pretty cool stuff.